having mentors and listening to other people are really important. But I really felt like that was a good opportunity at that time. And we're talking about 12, 13, which was arguably maybe the best investing time we would have ever seen. You know that you're good at something, that's the direction you want to run in, go for it. You know, it's important to listen to other people, but it's also really important to listen to what you want to do with your life.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. My name is Drew Pearson. You are listening to the Pearson Perspective. This is a deep dive into the stories and mindsets of successful business operators and investors. Let's go have some fun. All right, today I have got Mr. Grant Reeves on the show today with Stoic. I'm really excited to have him on. We were connected by a mutual friend, Richard, and Richard's a good dude. And so, man, I can't wait. It's going to be a lot of fun. Thanks for coming on the show today.
Man, thanks for having me. It's been a great time. Always fun to talk to other real estate guys and other real estate nerds and discuss strategy and what everybody's up to.
I love it, man. This will be just really a deep dive into the kind of the private equity world, self-storage, and investments. And so this is where I love to hang out, and I know you do too.
For sure. It's fun stuff.
Yeah. Well, Grant, why don't you just kind of give us an overview of how you got started? Similar to me, you were a commercial broker and then made the leap to owner. Not a whole lot of brokers do this. And so, man, how did you do this?
Well, I'm actually going to take you back a little bit further on like how I got into brokerage is really odd as well.
Great.
So grew up in Georgia and went to Auburn University. And this is like 2010 timeframe, which is great to go to Auburn at that time because that's when Cam Newton was there. We had tons of fun. But anyway, while I was there, my parents moved to South Alabama. I was out of college, had no idea what I wanted to do. So pretty much spent the entire time just messing around and not doing any schoolwork, just completely wasting time. So about halfway through my junior year, we were like, enough is enough. Let's move on, like take a break from college, figure something else out. So I was like 20, I guess, at the time. And so I moved to Fairhope, Alabama. Don't know anybody for the most part. Know, a couple people, but not many. And everyone else I know is at college. So I was like, what am I going to do? So I started working for a home builder, kind of doing like, this is in 2013, I guess. So still a lot of houses that he had on inventory from the financial crisis and all that kind of stuff. So we were mowing grass, doing punch list items on houses that he had sold, that kind of stuff. And his wife was a residential real estate agent. So he was like, man, like while you're down here, market's getting better, get your real estate license. So I did that.
Sure.
So I guess I got licensed when I was like 2021. Had no idea how real estate worked and went and joined my local realtor office down here and decided I was going to sell some houses. So I did that for about 6 months. Did not like it at all. Was not my forte to, do that kind of, I was always a big math guy growing up. So didn't like the emotional piece of that.
Sure.
So after about 6 months, decided I want to go into commercial. Found a guy who ended up being a great mentor to me. It was a senior broker at a kind of more regional firm, kind of similar to the firm you used to be with, I believe. Mm-hmm. And went and worked under him. And that's really where I learned how to cold call, how, REITs work, private equity firms work, all that kind of fun stuff. And his suggestion was, hey, look, there's nobody really local on the Gulf Coast in our little pocket that's chasing limited service hotels. So think Conference Suites, Holiday Inn Expresses, that kind of stuff, a lot of under-operated properties and that kind of thing. So pretty much called every hotel between New Orleans to Tallahassee, up to Montgomery, Columbus, Jackson, Mississippi, all that, and just knew everybody.
Wow.
Local firm, just putting deals together.
Okay,
So
can we stop really quick? I want to pause you. Okay, so you built your own database, and this was when it was really hard to build databases back then. And then you just picked up the phone and you called people. Like, what did you say to Mr. Patel who owned the hotel or Mr. John Doe?
Yeah. So, like you said, there was not really a great database. So it was not calling people direct. So it was mainly like I'll pick a market, like let's just say Hattiesburg, Mississippi. And I would download every hotel I could find, like say out of CoStar, and then just call the front desk and ask to talk to the owner. And most of the time that would not work, but I would always have like a hotel, like in my back pocket, like an off-market hotel that I would say, hey, I was calling to talk to the owner about a hotel I have for sale in the area. And they would actually call back for that. Cause everybody, I mean, we're all those guys, so that was always
Absolutely. So that was the bait. That was the carrot to
right.
get him to call back. And now you got their contact, and now we can build that relationship.
Exactly. And so a lot of times I was always kind of competing against the national firms, which meant that I usually was transacting stuff off market. I very rarely was like putting stuff out there, just for the simple fact that if they were going to go that route, they were going to go with Marcus, JLL, kind of the more bigger companies kind of thing. But we had good buyers and we knew how to put deals together, so it worked.
You're just a deal junkie putting together hotels. I freaking love it.
Yeah, man, it was fun. It was good times. And so continue to do that. And then finally I was like, all right, if I'm going to continue to really hit the hotel game, I'm going to go get the national card and do the national thing. So I went to Marcus & Millichap in 2017. And they have probably the smallest Marcus office in the country is here in Fairhope. It was literally me and one triple net broker. And so, yeah, most Marcus offices, I don't know if you've ever been to one, but they're usually 40, 50 people plus. But it was literally just two of us in a little office with Marcus.
That's awesome.
Outside. So, yeah, it's fun. And so, yeah, just continued to sell more hotels. That was really, really helpful in kind of my journey as well to get on the principal side, because a lot of my clients, I kind of really just started to understand how they were underwriting and how they were looking at deals. And I kind of graduated a little bit more from the owner-operator piece to a little bit more the PE firm kind of level, which was super helpful to see how they were structuring the LPGP relationship, how they were putting together different debt products. That's really when I got introduced to like Lifeco debt, CMBS, kind of more sophisticated debt products than just regional banks. So yeah, that kind of set me on that journey. So I did that until I guess 2020. So I get rewind a little bit. So around 2019, decided I really want to get on the principal side. It was something I had talked about for a really long time. Knew nothing about it, but I was like, that's what I want to do. I don't, brokerage is great, nothing against brokerage, but I mean, as you know, you're living paycheck to paycheck. It's, it's a lot more on what other people decide to do. And that was always really hard for me because, somebody else might pull out of a deal. I was only doing like 4 to 5 deals a year, so they're pretty sizable deals. I mean, wife, house, mortgage, all that kind of stuff. Somebody pull out a quarter of your income for that year. I mean,
it hurts. It hurts. I mean, you're big game hunting, and you gotta hit. You gotta hit the mark.
Yeah, and it's great when it hits, but man, that is a bad feeling when you're sitting there. And I mean, I'm sure that you've been there as well. You're just like, if this doesn't close, I'm gonna go get a job at a bank. Like, I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Yeah, my favorite is the Go ahead. I'm sorry. No, go ahead.
That was an interesting thing that I'll kind of throw in there. The fact that I am a college dropout and didn't finish my degree actually kind of kept me in it, because I was like, I have nothing else I can do. It's not like I can go get a job. So like, it really was kind of a blessing at the end of the day. I mean, everything works out the way it's supposed to. But yeah, because if not, there are times I was probably like, man, this sucks. I'm going to go find something else. But I had to stay in it because I didn't really have another option.
That's commitment. I love it, man.
Yeah.
That's such a freaking great story.
Yeah, that's fun. It's good.
Okay, so you're doing well in the hotel business. You started out at a tougher time, not the bottom, but you started at a tough time in 2013, and now it's 2020, and you get a wild hair to start Stoic. Let us know.
So that was really more like 19. I started 19. Really trying to figure it out.
And, so 19. So what was?
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. So what's kind of behind the name, and why did you want to take the leap?
So I started underwriting stuff, figuring out, reading books, how to structure, how waterfalls work, all that kind of fun stuff. And so I've been doing that in silence, like just by myself, trying to put together like some little, really small deals, that kind of thing. Around that time, my friend Jeremy, who's now my co-owner with Stoic, called me and was like, hey man, I got a great idea for this building. You know anything about how to structure like a private equity deal? And I was like, actually, I've spent the past 6 months of my life figuring that out. So that's kind of what got the conversation started. So we were looking at making the move to that side, and then the pandemic hit. And when that hit, he was a triple net broker primarily throughout the country, and then me obviously in hotels. Well, hotels, went to zero overnight. So we had nothing to work on. So we're like, well, let's start trying to put together deals. So that's really where that started. Was it gave us a few weeks before things kind of started changing that we were able to just kind of really sit down and be like, let's do some deals together. And it really wasn't planned out to be a firm that had employees and was, like a real PE shop. It was just, hey, let's go throw some deals together. And, if you want to do deals with somebody else, that's fine. We'll do something together, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Which is really nice because it was really organic the way that we were able to build our company so that we didn't feel forced to have to work together. Like it was one of those that was just kind of really worked out well. We were able to do, start working together and really enjoyed it more so than we had in the past. So we made the leap, started the LLC in late 2020 and found our first deal to do in 21. So, yeah.
So what was that first deal?
So the first deal was a land deal. So we had 16 and a half acres here in Fairhope, which is a really great little market. Yeah. And we had put it under contract. We had a long due diligence on it. We were going to do a build-to-rent townhome development. The numbers got huge fast. I mean, for our first deal, I think we were talking about like $15, $20 million development. And so we were going through the entitlement process. Where we are, the entitlements are pretty difficult to get done in Fairhope. And so they were getting a lot of stonewall there. And so the guy we actually used to work for, the regional brokerage firm I used to work for, he's a huge land developer along the Gulf Coast, knew that we had the property under contract. And essentially was like, hey guys, like y'all are halfway down the road. Why don't you just sign the contract to me and take the risk off the table? And we felt like at the time we were giving up a lot. In retrospect, that was a great move because it really gave us the liquidity to be able to get to the next deal, get things really rolling.
Absolutely.
So that was great. Yeah.
Man, hats off to you. And that's something I've really learned is, I don't know, I kind of grew up in this buy and hold forever kind of mindset. And what you don't realize in this business is you need a track record, you need liquidity, you need to kind of recycle some things from an investor standpoint, a lending relationship standpoint, your balance sheet, so you can actually get on to real projects and have real ownership.
Yeah, completely agree. I mean, the owning forever thing is great if you're kind of operating, I feel like, at your own book. But with other people's money, that kind of thing, it's really hard. I mean, you probably go through this as well, but like you go through a financial model with an LP and you're like, well, then when we sell it, it's going to look like this. This is how waterfall works, yada, yada, yada. And if you haven't sold anything, I mean, while you and I were brokers, we understand how that process works. Until you do it with that firm, a lot of people have a hard time understanding that.
Absolutely, man. You got to have skins on the wall to point to, Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
And so we did that land flip deal. The first deal that we actually did and we own is grocery store to self-storage conversion.
I've heard about this one too. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a cool deal. And it's 45,000 square foot box that was actually, so it was a Food World that then in 13 had been converted to an office building. And so we put it under contract. I mean, we were like well under $50 a square foot. It was like nice office space. And so we were like, so we put it under contract. We're like, well, if we can't find a tenant, then we'll go to storage. But I mean, we could have leased it for like maybe $5 a triple net and killed it. But nobody wanted that much office at that time. So ripped it all out and turned it into storage.
And so let's talk about that. I'm doing 2 conversion projects in the near future. Nice. We're kind of going through Janus International to get all of our kits and doors, no key locks. What did y'all learn in that process? What hiccups did you kind of have to encounter, and how'd it go?
Fortunately, that one went really well. I'm trying to think of what kind of things we ran into that were big issues. We did end up finding a couple roof issues that we had to fix. But the best thing about that deal was when it was converted to office in 13, they had redone all the MEPs. So all HVAC was new, all the plumbing, all electrical, and then had a new roof on it in 2020. So, I mean, it was could not do that. So, yeah, it was really, really worked out well. Janus great to work with. We have the no-key locks as well. Are y'all going to operate that when y'all sell it? Y'all have your own management company, right?
We do, yes. So we operate everything in-house under the First Stop Storage brand. Yeah. And working hard to kind of create a culture and employees to scale this. That to me is one of the biggest missing links kind of in the mid-sized storage world.
Yeah. And we kind of like that same kind of size as well. we want to run kind of institutional quality product, like nice Janus doors, nice Noki stuff, but on a 35,000 square foot facility and kind of stay under. Because I mean, the markets you're playing in are similar to the ones we're playing in. That we
absolutely,
you might be able to have 100,000 square foot facility, but you can't have a Life and Extra, acute, like, you know, huge facilities all right next to each other. Just the population won't support it. Yeah, and so that's really one of our big theses is taking the same quality product, the same customer experience, the same level of product, and then bringing it down to these smaller, more tertiary markets that are great little affluent pockets, but the population in the 5 mile might be 30,000, 35,000 instead of a couple 100,000.
Right. Yeah. I kind of think about it as, you know, we're bringing big city technology with small town customer service.
Yeah,
that's really what we're trying to do.
And you got those managed facilities?
Yes. Okay. I tried, and I was under the impression that, hey, we don't need people and technology can run this whole thing. And I think that all can work in markets, and it can certainly work with certain demographics. Some of our locations, it's just better to have someone on site. It's actually cheaper to pay a full-time person than deal with all the issues and the problems and the cleanup. Our turnover's lower, our auctions are lower, our rent collections are higher. And it makes my life better. Like people are good if you find the right people. And so I'm proud to say that's what we're building towards, you know?
Yeah, no, I fully agree with that. We are fortunate. We don't run our facilities ourselves. We use third party. That is a virtual managed facility through Stories, which has been fun to be a part of. They've really taken off here in the last couple of years since we got to know them, and it's been fun to see.
Yeah, they've done great. They're out of Birmingham, aren't they?
Yeah, so they're out of Birmingham. Kind of their model is when you walk in, you have a very nice Cisco machine that you can speak to your manager. It comes up on the screen and it makes it really easy to walk through the process. But from an operations standpoint, it allows us to have that one manager is running, say, 4 to 5 facilities at one time. And then we have somebody on site that walks and cleans and that kind of thing as well. But yeah, it's been a great system to be a part of and fun to see them grow.
That's awesome. So one last thing on the conversion, the one thing I don't know about is the lease up time. Just to be vulnerable, it's like, man, everything looks good and they should come. Are they going to come? How was that the lease up process for you? How long did it take, and what was that like?
Well, so we're still on lease up. So that deal, we bought that deal, kind of timeline real fast. We bought that deal last July. We opened it March of 2022. And so we were about, 6 months in, something like that. Mm-hmm. And we're at about 38% occupancy today.
That seems pretty strong.
Yeah. So we underwrote it with I think we have like another 24 to 36 months of like nobody would have to rent. And we have enough operating reserve to be able to do that. Probably hurt the returns a little bit, but it made it a safe bet for us, and that helps a lot. So yeah, we're underwriting, say, 24 to 30 month lease up on those. But it is one of those things that, we talk about it constantly. It's like, hey, we got 2 more people over in the Echo Rouge facility is what we call that one. It's definitely one of those things that we watch day to day because it's the first one leasing up, and it is nerve wracking.
Yeah, it is. I'll be with you there in just a few months. So here we go. Welcome to the big time, Yeah.
It's fun, and it is cool to see happen. But it is interesting.
Yeah, it was way better just to buy existing storage businesses and kind of flip the switch. Unfortunately, that's kind of turned off. So we either have to do nothing, develop from ground up, or convert. And I think with my risk tolerance and experience, conversion is a good stepping stone to something more.
The conversion's great. If we could find more of those, we would love to do them. The timeline's so compressed as far as just, because the ground up piece is great. We do that as well. And so one of the first properties put under contract, quick deal story, was in, fall of 2020. It was October of 2020. And in Pensacola, Florida, to do a ground up development over there. Fully designed the site, all that kind of stuff. Ended up hitting roadblocks with heritage trees, too big. We had 3 big oaks on the site that we believe we could have just cut down. They wouldn't let us. We had to redesign the whole site again. Long story short, we will break ground on that facility in 2 weeks from now. So it took us 2 full years to get off the ground. I mean, it's just so painful. And it'll be a great site. We're super excited about it. Man, ground up is it's a long burn, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's a year to build and then another, let's just call it 18, 24 months to stabilize. It's 5 years of your life before we could potentially sell a refi.
Yeah.
And, if you're in anything but storage, the economy can change and you're in a world of hurt,
Yeah, 100% agree. So yeah, it is definitely a different world to be in that ground up game. So we prefer the value add world. We had another storage facility in Little Rock that's an expansion deal that we're currently expanding. And those are nice because they're kind of like the conversion deals to a certain degree, just because you already have some existing. You're not starting completely from scratch. Like that facility had all the site work done for the additional buildings. So by throwing 2 buildings on it, it's already operating as a storage facility right now. So yeah, it should be good, but it kind of shortens that time frame the same way a conversion does.
Yeah, that's awesome. So let's talk a little bit about kind of how you think about investments, or, it's interesting to think about, well, what doesn't work quickly so you can move that to the no pile, and how are you kind of thinking about the world moving forward?
Yeah, so we are multi-asset class. So we own self-storage, obviously, flex industrial, and then we have 2 mixed-use projects we're working on locally. Mixed-use stuff is cool. Those are kind of more local developments. I'm not sure exactly where those are going to end up as far as that portfolio. But on the self-storage and the flex industrial, everything that we do, we want to build a portfolio of. Where we see ourselves as our company, our geographic location, we know that a lot of larger shops would love to own a Class A nice facility in Fairhope, Alabama, but they're not going to go buy one $5.5 million deal. So we're going to go do $25 million deals and sell it for $100 million, say in 5 to 7 years. That's kind of how we look at everything. We don't want to be in one asset class. We like to be doing different stuff. We just see other options. But everything that we do, we don't want to jump around and go do a retail deal, a storage deal, a multi-deal. Like we want to really go at that asset class full bore and build out that portfolio. It is a big thing. Really what we prefer, our perfect box is something that was 80s, 90s vintage, that's been run down, older owner, hasn't really wanted to do a lot of tenant improvements in the flex space or something like that, or really get the property up. And so that's mainly in the industrial world. We're finding those opportunities. We just bought 48,000 feet in Arkansas. This kind of same thing. It was built in the 80s, needs, new fresh paint on the outside, needs some upgrades to the interior of it, be able to push rents. And we can push rents to 30-40% after doing that on the lease rates office warehouse. So that's really where we fit into it is kind of that value add piece. But obviously we'll go into the development game if we have to. Man,
that's exciting.
Yeah.
I love that flex too. I love that flex product also. We probably own 150, 200,000 square feet of industrial.
Mm-hmm.
We just don't have that much flex in the Southeast. There's a little bit of Birmingham. There's a little bit in New Orleans, Greater Jackson, but there's more dadgum flex space in DFW than the Southeast, it seems like.
Yeah, I agree. But that's really part of our, kind of why we like it, though, is because of the fact that nobody really is building it because it's expensive to build. You can buy it for below replacement cost, which I'm giving away a lot here. But it's a great asset class because of the fact nobody's building it. It's needed as all these markets continue to grow. I know over in Louisiana, the same way that we are, tons of people are moving here. There needs to be a place for the HVAC company to be able to have an office warehouse, the GC, the home builder, all that kind of product type. And they just don't exist.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we really like that. And so we are playing with some stuff in those more traditional flex markets like Jackson, like Birmingham, Columbus, Montgomery, those kind of markets. One thing that we will do also, a lot of people obviously look at, a town and population growth and want to be in the hottest area. So call it, Destin, Florida, blowing up population wise on the charts. While we obviously love those kind of places, we'll also go to, say, Montgomery, which a lot of people wouldn't do, but it's a stagnant population, but it's a state capital. There's a lot of industry there. It's probably not going to grow numbers wise, but there are some markets that will grow. So, a lot of people do this, but the best way is find the retailers you want to be near. You know, if there's a new Publix going in, a new little submarket, and they're building a lot of multi around it. Yes, the whole of Montgomery might not be growing, but that little submarket's going to grow. So we can go get right next to it. You know?
Absolutely. Yeah. Where's the Chick-fil-A? Like, I'll just think about Chick-fil-A. We're going to be okay.
So if I can just go follow those guys, it works.
Yeah. I love that, man. I mean, everybody's like, oh, I want to be in Austin, Charlotte, you know, Buckhead. And yeah, I do too. But who can afford to pay 5 caps, like pro forma 5 caps?
And it's just not the best return, I don't think. I think that there's a lot of really solid markets. Jackson, Mississippi is a great example. So I did a lot of brokerage work in Jackson, so I get that.
Love Greater Jackson. Love it.
Yeah, it's just one of those that at the end of the day, yeah, it's never going to be in Austin or in Nashville, but it's the largest city in Mississippi, the state capital. It will always be there and will always have, X number of population and places for people to store stuff, places for people to go to work in Flex Industrial World, and it will always be there.
Yeah, it's not folding up in our lifetime, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not sure you can drink the water in Jackson proper, but you know that's neither here nor there.
Richland and Rankin County, be all right.
That's right. Yeah. And I love Brandon, Flowwood, Pearl. I love it all over there.
It's great, and that's really what we like to do is look at where everyone else is ever looking. Obviously, there's a lot of we don't want to be contrarians to the point where we're buying large Class A or Class B office buildings in downtown metros. We're not trying to be that contrarian, but we do want to go, all right, everyone's trying to buy Flex. What are the markets they're chasing? What can we go do the same thing and what markets they're overlooking? And fortunately, with us being from Alabama and then you in Louisiana, I mean, there's a lot of those kind of markets that we know really well, that if you're in South Florida or New York or out West, you're just not going to look at Biloxi, Mississippi. But it's a great little market. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I love Mississippi, and I just think there's so much opportunity in the Southeast in real estate and buying businesses. We're really just kind of like this little forgotten stepchild, and outside of hurricanes and insurance, it's a great place to live.
And also, not to mention the operational upside is so good. Not speaking poorly of anybody, but like people will talk about like moving to Baldwin County where we are. So the beaches are here and all that kind of stuff. Well, there's a lot of service businesses like HVAC or pest control or some stuff like that just kind of gets away with the fact that they're the only ones here and everyone's kind of on island time. If you come to a lot of these markets and you're really professional, you answer your phone and you run a really tight ship or a good business, you will be successful. There is room in the market, you know? Yeah.
You'll freaking dominate, you know?
Yeah, exactly. You put your company that would be somewhat successful in, Atlanta or Birmingham, put it, in a smaller Gulf Coast kind of market, you'll kill it.
Yeah. I was down in Baldwin County a few weeks ago. It is just blowing up down there.
That's insane. It's
unbelievable. Yeah.
It's a fun place to be for sure.
Yeah, it is. Man, this has been a ton of fun. It's so much fun to talk to operators like you, guys who are in the arena, every day, having wins, having losses. Something that we're really thinking about over here is people and culture.
Yeah.
We own multiple asset classes, and one thing I learned quickly was if every asset has 5 to 7 problems, you own 3 assets. Well, now you have 18 to 21 problems you have to solve for.
Mm-hmm.
How are y'all thinking about systems, and how are y'all thinking about kind of new hires to really grow a business that runs real estate?
Yeah. So that like we were saying before we got on the call, it's been a definite challenge for us and something we've gotten into. So Jeremy and I were obviously brokers. We were independent brokers. We weren't part of teams or anything like that. So it was literally, we did everything from cold calling to our paperwork to everything. So that's what we were used to doing. That's what we're comfortable with. So we, at the beginning of this year, though, we did our couple of deals last year and got real bogged down in the operation. And so we went through probably about a 6 to 7 month transition from deals, in between deals. That was not fun, but it was just where we had to figure out, like, all right, we've proven that we can do deals and we know how to structure them. How do we build a back office to be able to continue to operate so that when Jeremy and I go look at a storage facility and wherever, then the whole company doesn't shut down, because that's how it was operating, right?
Yep.
So we hired over the summer, our first hire, somebody that could help us on the acquisition side, help us model, help us underwrite, broker relationships, cold call, that kind of stuff. We also hired a asset manager, project manager that just as you know, with conversions or any kind of development or really any kind of ownership, it's not super complicated, but you got to have somebody just every day. What's the problem here? Who's supposed to be fixing on staying on? Because if you don't stay on, it's just never going to get done on your contractors or whoever it is. And then we have a staff accountant now as well that just started about 2 weeks ago. So it's 5 of us now, and we're kind of building out those systems so that, like, I was running the acquisitions piece of things before Sam, who's our acquisitions associate, now came on. So I'm really having to work to be able to write down how I look at deals so that when he brings me something, it's something that fits our model, right? So that's been interesting to have to, like, sit down and you know it on your head, but you never put it on paper of, like, why I like a deal. And so we're currently building out those systems. We just started using a operational system, like a corporate structure kind of thing called EOS.
It's the best. EOS is the best.
Y'all operate with that as well?
Yep. It's been our Bible for years now, and it's my buddy Gaines, who has been on the show. It's his Bible. It's how you run company. I'm not telling you it's the best, but if you follow it, you will succeed. I mean, it is so clear. It'll work.
Yeah, 100%. So, like, yesterday, we actually had our quarterly with our implementer came in, and we did the all day thing, which is great. It's so much fun to, like, get everybody on the same page and all talking about it.
Yeah.
But going back to the cultural thing real fast, I mean, one of the biggest things that we want to be able to do is have full transparency. Obviously, we want our whole team to drive by one of our assets and tell their buddies in the car, like, oh, we own that. You know, we're not the kind of owners that want to be like, no, we own that, y'all work here. Like, that's not how we are. Like, we want everybody to understand, like, this is our game. Here's our team. Let's go do it together. We try to be real transparent on, like, here's where the current problems are. Here's where we are financially on these kind of issues. Here's the problems. Here's the wins. And just everybody working on everything together. We don't want to hide, hey, we had a deal that fell out and we lost $40,000 in due diligence money. Like, we don't want to hide that from the team. Like, hey, this is what happened. This is where we are. I think that's a big piece of getting everyone on the same page, everyone working together, to do that. Because, I mean, everyone has their very set job, right seat, right job, or right person, right seat, like they talk about in EOS. But I think having everyone connected to feel all part of it's big.
Yeah. And really the next level, we're not quite there yet. Maybe you are, is tying incentives to those people.
Yeah.
Chris Bowers just had a great episode on incentives and how he thinks about it. And that's where we're trying to head to.
Yeah. And we want to do the same thing. So, let's definitely keep in touch on that, because I'm trying to figure that out, because incentives are so big, and it's obviously easy on stuff like acquisitions team, right? Like, oh, you close something, you maybe get advice, but that's not always the best way of doing things. How do you go? And really the most important thing about our companies are the day-to-day minutia, right? The day-to-day operations that aren't the big hits. Those are the most important pieces. So how do you incentivize just kind of the checked in with the manager, just the very small things.
Yep. I don't have those answers for you, but I look to work to do this, because we're struggling with those same problems.
Yeah.
Not same problems. Same issues we're trying to solve.
100%.
And that's how we get everybody rowing in the same direction. And that's when you're a powerhouse. I mean, that's when like no one can stop Stoic, because the team is all moving in the same direction,
And everyone's proud to be a part of that team. There's not, oh, this is my job, and maybe I'll go spin off and do my own company. I've seen a few development firms that have done a really good job and those guys are very well paid. I mean, so they would make more money staying working for the company than they would on their own, really, at the end of the day. And I think incentivizing those people and making your employees as rich as possible is a great way of keeping everybody on the same page. Because what you don't want to do, obviously, is you make all the money, you pay them a good salary, but that's all their upside, because eventually they're going to go do the same thing that you're doing.
Yep, I think you got it. I think you got it. And building a culture where people want to show up, and also acknowledging that, we probably have a different risk tolerance than most people do,
Right.
So, man, that's really exciting. So on the communication piece, on the technology piece, on like construction management, are y'all using anything special? Is it just Excel on a piece of paper?
So we use Excel on that. We don't use anything like a deal path or anything currently. We're looking at some of those options. We actually just had our Salesforce built out by a developer to be able to have our timeline structure throughout there. From our development deals, our construction deals, as well as our own assets. So we're building currently our master calendar that you can pull up, and you can see on each deal when the insurance comes up, when the property taxes are due, all that kind of stuff, which would be super helpful because, I mean, you know how it is. We're currently, we have 5 or 6 assets, and we'll end the year about 8 or 9. But I mean, even small stuff like insurance renewals, like that stuff just completely, if you don't have it in front of you, it's going to get missed. And
yeah, we've got 16 properties, and it's like, it's all, every month something's coming up.
Yeah.
And we can't get on a master policy. That doesn't make sense for us. And so, yeah, I mean, I was having this conversation yesterday with my insurance guy. How do we solve this?
Yeah. So I think having everything in one central place, I mean, what we do is not that complicated. It's just mainly just having it in one place where you can see everything running at the same time. So we think that the way that we have Salesforce built out is going to be the technology to be able to be that project manager and also asset management kind of software altogether.
That's interesting. We may have to have a round 2. I'd love to hear more about that. And
yeah, well, we just got the beta on it yesterday, so give me a couple weeks to play with it. But yeah, it should be cool.
Yeah, and that's really cool. We're using we use a software called Trello. I don't know if you've heard of that. It's pretty simple, but it's kind of like a card system where we can attach and make notifications, reminders, and so our team can communicate through our due diligence process really clearly. We use Notion to store a lot of our back of the house operations, use Loom videos to answer a lot of questions. And so those are really the simple pieces we're using right now.
You all have a central office, or is everyone kind of working remote on y'all's?
Yeah, everyone's essentially remote. Home office is one office, it's me. And then my office manager works 10 minutes away. And then, we have on-site regional and an operations manager who are all remote at their location.
Okay. Yeah, that's one thing that we use. Is it kind of ends up being a crutch. It's great, but we have everybody in the office at the same time. So we end up, hey, where are you on this? Because they're right next door. But it is hard when you have somebody, say, working remote, say they're on vacation, they're not really on PTO, they're just trying to work somewhere else. And then you don't have all the systems in place to where, yes, it's great when they're next to you, but how do you bridge that gap when they're not next to you? Loom's really cool. I just actually found Loom the other day and want to start using that for more investor presentation kind of stuff, as well as just answering questions and everything. It just makes a lot more sense. Man,
it's so great. And I use it for like my bank presentations. You spend 5 minutes going over the pro forma, the aerial, the property, and you just save yourself 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. It's awesome.
That's such a better way of doing it, because I feel like so many people on the bank side, investor side, whatever, they don't really want to ask questions. Like I had a banker right before this call that was talking about like, oh, so sorry, I know this is a dumb question. And she probably didn't really want to ask it. We don't care. I mean, we'll answer whatever. We weren't looking down on that by any means. But if we had an investor or a presentation, a bank presentation that explained it, she could just re-listen to that 5 times until understood the nuances of it. Doesn't have to ask the question, and it helps them be able to understand it better too.
Yeah. I'm really trying to button up my investor presentation process or lender presentation process. I just made like a full deck that outlines our company, vision, mission, values, team, track record, and then I think adding in some of those frequently asked questions and an overview Loom video will just set the table for a good meal, so to speak.
Yeah, completely agree. And being able to explain it very simply and that kind of thing, because we want to do that where we have a company overview the same way that you do, so that it explains our structure. Because what you end up in, if you're explaining a deal to an LP or something investor, then you end up explaining your company and the deal at the same time. And people will get on like, so, well, who's doing this? And I thought that was part of it. I was like, no, that's just what our company's doing. It just gets all jumbled up.
Right. So, okay, this is a great dovetail into, I'm a big Morgan Housel fan. I don't know if you've ever read much of his work, but you should check him out at Collab Fund. But he's really big on storytelling, and I think it's so true. We are in the storytelling business. How quickly can we kind of start nodding our heads? Yes, I understand, Drew, what you're doing and your strategy. Do y'all think about, storytelling, marketing? How are you working on presenting that story in a clear and concise fashion?
Yeah, 100%. That was actually one of our big things we were talking about in the quarterly yesterday. Is how do we explain what we do in a simple fashion? Obviously, you can get real down in the weeds on some numbers really fast, and also with all of us working in it every day, it's really easy to think that everybody understands how IRR, even as simply as IRR, is like we all deal with that constantly for waterfalls, that kind of stuff. But like the normal person who invests in real estate does not understand really how IRR works. Yeah. Or how a waterfall works, or any of that kind of stuff. So we are actually working on right now a kind of a little video series. It's really elementary, but like, what is IRR? How does that work? How does waterfall work? How does who are all the different players in a real estate transaction? So that when our investors are able to they might not want to ask us because a lot of people are high net worth individuals, whatever. A lot of people don't like to ask questions. They feel like it looks bad on them. We don't care. We'd love to answer these questions. But regardless, we have a video library that explains really everything that we do in a simple Loom video or something like that someone can go to, watch, and be able to really understand whether it's financial calculations or what an asset type is and that kind of fun stuff.
Man, that's really cool. So you're moving into the education side. I mean, you're adding value by educating, and that's how you are gaining credibility, building trust. That's beautiful.
Yeah, so that's one big thing that we're working on is kind of the education side. I mean, obviously, as we get bigger and bigger and deal with larger, more institutional equity sources, we hope, then that won't really be an issue. But right now, a lot of our investors are doctors, lawyers, run other small businesses, and they don't deal in investment real estate every day. And explaining what a cap rate is on a 3-minute YouTube video is really simple for us, but it will really help some people be able to understand, hey, this is what you're investing in, and this is how this works.
I love it. Now, are you acting in these? Are these like the little hand-drawn comic clips?
So I'm trying to get Jeremy to do it, my business partner, but I don't know if that's going to work. So it'll probably be we'll end up ripping both of us into that and us explaining them, I would think.
Yeah, that's awesome.
A little hand-drawn things work too, but I do think it helps to people see you and talk and that kind of thing.
Yep. Get you a cool background and some lighting. And I mean, I've got a sound and video guy. It's so easy. Yeah. That's cool. Yeah. I'm moving.
Big studio and all that kind of crazy stuff like you used to. It's so much easier.
Yeah. Man, that's really cool. Mm-hmm. Well, this has been a ton of fun, Grant. Let's kind of wrap this up here. 2 questions I like to ask folks towards the end of the show. The first one is, have you read any books that have affected your thinking? Maybe you've gifted to other people?
Yeah. So one that we give to everybody, obviously the name of our company is Stoic Equity Partners. We really dig Stoicism and kind of how we look at Stoicism is there's a lot of problems that are going to arise, especially in real estate. And being a Stoic is how you handle those issues, not getting overly emotional, not freaking out the problem, just sitting down and going, here's the issue. Here's how we're going to solve it. We're going to move from A to B. Because every day, as you know, there is some blow up that could potentially wreck your whole business, and you just got to figure it out,
Yep.
And so that's really how we look at Stoicism, and that book that really got us on is The Obstacle is the Way.
I've got it right up here.
It's great, man. It's great. And so we actually give that, all of our investors have a copy of it. I'm sure a lot of them don't read it, but we do give it to everybody because we think that that's just a great book on how to treat life and how to look at things moving forward. The book that really got me started in private equity real estate was Investing in Private Equity Real Estate by Sean Cook. I don't know if you've ever read that book. We give that one a lot to LPs and that kind of thing. It's a great overview of our business. And so we always really like that one to whether employees are coming to work here or people that are investing with us or just us for all knowledge, just because it's a great asset that, hey, we're not making up how to structure a waterfall. Like this is a real thing. This is how it works. And here's a great manual on everything. So those are 2 really great books that we always like and always give away. And then me personally, I always love the book, Atomic Habits by James Clear. It's a great one. Just be able to get stuff done. That's always the biggest thing. It's not wasting time in life and kids and life and business. And you don't have so much time in the day, and being able to be really effective is really important to me.
Yeah, man, I love it. Those are 2 of those are on my short list, and I'll have to get the 3rd.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah, I'm still like most of my friends. They don't know what I do, or like my neighbors. They're like, Drew, what do you do? And I'm like, I just tell them I run a podcast now. Like it's just easier to tell them, you know.
I'm a podcast guy.
I'm a wannabe podcaster, you know.
Yeah.
They'll see me walking around downtown. They're like, Drew, do you even work? And you know, like so much of what we do is decision making. You know, it is we get paid to make good decisions essentially.
Yeah, which has always been hard for me because I mean, you come from the brokerage world, which is like I'm going to grind out 60, 80 hours a week, and like this is what I do day in and day out. And I find myself in certain times like you're at the office kind of wasting time. And you're like, I can be doing other things with my life, but then you kind of have that guilt of like, well, I need to be grinding 80 hours. You know, it's weird. It's a weird balance of like knowing when to turn it on and be like, I don't care if I'm in the office 20 hours a day this week. I got to get this done. Or there's times it's like, hey, it's kind of slow right now. I'm going to enjoy some other things I like to do as well.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. And yeah, that's great. Yeah. And so the last question I love to ask folks is, if you could go back and give yourself advice maybe 10, 12 years ago, what would you say?
I would start investing a lot sooner than I did and get on the principal side a lot sooner is really the biggest thing. Having mentors and listening to other people are really important, but I really felt like that was a good opportunity at that time. And we're talking about 12, 13, which was arguably maybe the best investing time we would have ever seen. But I listened to a lot of people that had just come out of the recession. They were like, if you start buying real estate, you're going to end up going broke. So they just watched all the mayhem that just happened. So it's not that they were not honestly giving me their opinion. But that is one thing that I would probably change is you know that you're good at something, that's the direction you want to run in, go for it. You know, it's important to listen to other people, but it's also really important to listen to what you want to do with your life.
Yeah, man, that's fantastic advice.
Yeah.
Well, this has been a ton of fun. I can't wait to continue to follow the journey. I think you guys are going to do some great things in the coming years.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate you having me on. It's great to connect. I know that we've talked on Twitter and texted a little bit and that kind of fun stuff. So yeah, it's great to talk and hope to meet in person one day.
Great. Well, just in case anybody wants to connect with you or follow along, what's a good way to get in touch?
Yeah. So my Twitter, actually, I should know this. Hold on. Let me see. My Twitter handle, I'm trying to be more of a Twitter kind of guy. So my Twitter is at Reeves_Grant. And that's Reeves, REAVES _GRANT. And then our website, my email's on our website. Website is Stoic, STOIC, EP, as in equitypartners.com. So stoicep.com. That's the best way to get in touch with me.
Great, Grant. Well, this has been a ton of fun, man. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right. See you, buddy.
Thanks, man.
I would really appreciate it if you'd leave us a review on Spotify, Apple, or anywhere you're listening or watching to this show. Thanks so much for joining us on this audio adventure. Let's go have some fun.